What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So to close out last week, Nintendo did release their financial report for the most recent fiscal quarter, and while that report now has people more antsy than ever to see what they have up their sleeve for next generation, because it certainly appears that the current generation is on the decline, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about a major leak that's now hit the internet for, what's left to be 2024's biggest release, and it seems like Activision isn't too happy about this one. And then we also have a major blow to the retro gaming community, as pretty much one of the biggest ROM hacking databases is winding down. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members of the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with THQ Nordic, as they did have a full showcase to close out last week. And in this showcase, they did have one major tease at the end that I was really excited to see, but we'll start actually at the top here. Starting with The Eternal Life of Goldman. Then we have Space for Sale. Disney Epic Mickey Rebrush, that is coming out, of course, September 24th. Wreckfest 2, it was really cool actually to see that pop up. I wasn't necessarily expecting that one here, but still really cool. Titan Quest 2, Gothic 1 Remake. There's Way of the Hunter DLC. They had a game, I guess it's just titled at this time, The Cute Little Piglet. They say it's not the game title, so I guess that's just temporary. Just says they're coming. And then Darksiders. Yes, there is a new Darksiders that will be, I guess, released at some point. It's just a teaser, and it's a very brief one. So unfortunately, we didn't really get too much other than just that, just a promise that, or just them at least telling us that, yes, another Darksiders game is coming, which the last one we had, a mainline one, was Darksiders 3, and that leaned more so into a Souls-like formula, so I'm curious if they continue down that path or try something new again, because they sort of changed up. Well, from the first one to the second one, they changed it up somewhat, leaned more into some of the RPG elements. Then from the second one to the third one, they leaned more into kind of the Souls-like elements, so maybe they'll shift and change things up for gameplay once again, but really, who knows when that's coming out, as again, they didn't have much to show here, but for the most part, not a bad showcase overall for THQ Nordic. Also, we had a bit of a surprise with Game Informer shutting down. And when I mean shutting down, I mean like it's just gone. The website immediately went offline. It was completely locked. And we have this message here that was posted up overall on their social media accounts, where they say, after 33 thrilling years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights from the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Game Informer. From early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms, we've been honored to share this incredible journey with you, our loyal readers. While our presses may stop, the passion for gaming that we've cultivated together will continue to live on. Thank you for being part of our epic quest, and may your own gaming adventures never end. Game Informer. So a lot of the staff there was apparently blindsided by this, and it did seem very abrupt, to where it was almost suspicious to a point where people were like, okay, what actually happened here? Because this was legitimately out of nowhere. And for Game Informer, it's linked to GameStop, and GameStop has been going through all kinds of issues on their own, and there's like a whole meme stock thing attached to them as well, but people have just been trying to figure out what GameStop's path forward is in general, because go into one of the stores, it's like half pop figures and collectibles, and the other half is video games. So how much of a place does a video game magazine that really at the beginning was designed to help sell games and advertise stuff that is in GameStop to sell? Well, it's really hard to say at that point, but yeah, unfortunate stuff. However, 33 years, it was a good run for Game Informer, and that's just kind of where we are with a lot of these magazines and just media outlets. It does seem a lot of them right now are on borrowed time with just the overall cost that's involved to keep them upright. Oh, and if you missed it, we did have Tomba release last week, and I think I said that right, but either way, we have it posted up over on OpenCritic with the reviews currently standing at a 78, which, okay, that's not bad. It's a PS1 game that is as tried and true as possible, I guess, to the original back on the original PlayStation. But I have started to play this somewhat now that I'm done the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. And it is a very weird game. That's legitimately the best description I can give for it. It's like that 2.5D side-scroller game where developers all of a sudden realized they did have more power available to them, more things they can do with sort of the setting behind the character and stuff with the PS1, going from things like the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. So I'm going to continue playing it. It's not necessarily what I was expecting. I barely played it back in the day. I just remember the character and the advertising, and a few of my friends did like it on their original PlayStation, so it's new to me, and It's very strange. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and their recent financial report. This covers the first quarter of the current fiscal year. So that's April, May, and June. As soon as they released this, people took a look at it and were like, whoa, okay, things are not looking great here for Nintendo compared to last year. But then they started to remember what came out at that same time, which was The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and that Super Mario movie, which, while not a video game, does completely add to the revenue and other aspects that this quarter will be going up against. But Tears of the Kingdom was a behemoth of a release, sprinting to like 20 million copies sold very, very quickly. But still, let's take a look. We can first start with the hardware that was sold, because we can see Nintendo did update it here. Now sitting at 143.42 million units sold for the Nintendo Switch. That means in this previous quarter, Nintendo did sell 2.1 million systems. That does seem to be a little less than what analysts were predicting, considering Nintendo does currently have their goal for this fiscal year set at 13.5 million. And based on this number, it will be pretty difficult to get there. I feel like, just because they are running out of people to sell the thing to. I mean, really is getting to that moment of saturation where they're like, who else needs a Switch? And everyone already has 2 or 3 of them at this point. But they do have a Legend of Zelda Light coming up that will move units. Yes, will it be enough to get there? Hard to say. I think they're going to need a price drop. That's, I believe, their next move, which the system hasn't had one yet, technically, so there you go. You do that, use some advertising alongside of it, a slew of games that, while it's not on the level of Tears of the Kingdom, could at least come together and help to move, in this case, another 11.5 million or so systems. But the thing that really caught people off guard, if you looked at the consolidated financial highlights, you look on the right side, it is a lot of minus signs, a lot of negatives. Operating profit, for example, was down 70.6%, net sales down 46.5%, ordinary profit down 55%, and that started to have people wonder, okay, how much longer is Nintendo gonna roll right now with the Switch when they do see this? Remember, Nintendo has these numbers like well in advance from when they present it to us. I mean, think about it again, the quarter, April, May, and June, ended quite a while ago. It just takes them a bit of time, obviously about a month or so, to get all the information together, calculate everything, and present it like this, which I will have linked down below. They have like a bunch of slides, pretty big report here that they outline really well. I mean, it wasn't all bad necessarily. For example, they did point out that Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is like the fastest selling Paper Mario, 1.76 million units. It's selling faster than the original one on the GameCube there. And then Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, 1.19 million units. And trust me, for a port like that, that one is making money. But over on install base forum, the biggest blow to Nintendo right now, and you know what, they may as well unveil the Switch 2 this week, because they went ahead and cataloged the differences and the updates that Nintendo had for all their different evergreen titles. And ladies and gentlemen, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did not reach 1 million units sold this past quarter. It's constantly moving 1 million units, no sweat, most quarters, sometimes multiple millions. No, 930,000. I mean, it might actually be over. This is it. This is like the Nintendo Doom scenario here. No, but still, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, yes, it still continues to roll along. Animal Crossing New Horizons sold almost 500,000 units since its last update, which is impressive. And then you also have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, now over 25 million copies sold. So the evergreen titles are still continuing along. I saw people point out that Tears of the Kingdom sold less than Breath of the Wild. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where we are with it now. I feel like they're both kind of leveled off now at this time, but I would be interested to see if Breath of the Wild maybe is a candidate for Nintendo to really push the next system with some sort of 4K ray tracing load time update, some kind of enhancement that they have, since they have technically gone around and demoed Breath of the Wild on new hardware. At times you hear about that and then you think, okay, maybe that is one of the big games they're going to push alongside a system, since clearly it's ready enough for them to show partners to at least demonstrate the hardware. But not a particularly strong quarter for Nintendo. However, I do think this is the last report we're going to get before we find out whatever Nintendo's next system is, most likely through way of a trailer, because technically we won't hear from them again for their fiscal quarter that we're in still now until November. And if we don't know about Nintendo's next system by November, then there's gonna be a lot of questions, I'm sure, getting thrown around, especially by investors who will certainly be antsy to hear about the next hardware, the next generation starting up, because think the next report's also going to have a lot of negatives in it. Next up, let's talk about a major leak that has now hit the internet, and it has to do with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which we all know at this point going into the holidays, probably going to be the biggest release for the holiday season. It pretty much always is. Call of Duty, no sweat, tops the Circana or MPD sales charts every single time. 20 to 30 million units, no issue, right? Well, now we're starting to see footage, screenshots, all kinds of stuff get out there ahead of any sort of beta that's been run. Now, this is posted up over on Insider Gaming, where they say the leaks come courtesy of Twitter user Better Than Alex, who's seemingly been able to gain back-end access to Black Ops 6 ahead of the multiplayer beta and final release. As of the time of the writing, the Twitter account has already leaked all of Black Ops 6's 20 multiplayer maps, in addition to details on gunsmith, kill streaks, perks, weapons, and more. I also saw, I think one of the biggest change-ups they're doing here for the franchise, they had a different sort of movement. It was kind of like omnidirectional movement, I think is what they were calling it. And this one caught me off guard. I know this has been mentioned for years now, I feel like, something that they were working on in the background developing, and this does look like it's going to change things up quite a bit. Sort of the ability to dive backwards and you kind of land on your back and you can see like your legs. It just feels like there's going to be a lot more strategy here, diving side to side and moving around. It kind of reminded me a bit of Rainbow Six Siege. I guess that's a close comparison to this, but clearly this is a big deal for Activision because they're going around and striking everything down. And there was a lot of footage, a lot of screenshots, so obviously I can't show you any of it here, but now that I've seen some of the stuff, especially with the difference in terms of movement and being able to, again, dive around in that direction, where they can kind of dive around any way possible and stuff, I am actually pretty interested in this one. And of course, it's the Black Ops name, which we know is very, very popular, but we don't have to wait too much longer. We do have a beta coming up here pretty soon that if you're in Game Pass, you'll just have immediate access to. So I will be playing it here. I believe that's actually at the end of this month. And well, of course, I'm sure talk about it on the podcast one weekend afterwards. Next up, let's talk about a major blow to the retro gaming community, as it appears that Romhacking.net is actually winding things down. Now, they did post an update over on their website. Starting at the top here, they say, it's been a good near 20-year run. Think about that for a second. If you've been aware of Romhacking.net for any length of time, it's technically been around for, I think, 2004. So yeah, that is wild to think about that, because I feel like I've been going to this website forever, and apparently, yes, I have. So they say, but for various reasons, it's time to wind things down. The site became so busy with 24/7 use, endless queues, and an endless inbox. It's a very different world than it was in 2005. Copyright pressures increased dramatically with takedowns and legal burden. The site shifted from serving mostly contributing humans to bots and overzealous people abusing resources. They drowned everybody else out. The need for the site has lessened over time. There are now many options for community discussions, open source projects, and file storage across the internet. For a while, I was looking to find a successor within the circles of site supporters. I asked several potential people, but the stars did not align. This is from Nightcrawler, who pretty much owns and runs the website there. Now, they did back up the database of all the files and stuff, I guess, here on romhacking.net. And those are currently uploaded to Internet Archive. So it is at least available. It's several gigabytes in size, but you can technically go on there, download the backup of the database that they held here. Now, I will say, there did appear to be a bit of a dust up there behind the scenes, just trying to figure out what was going to happen with the future of the website. And then it was refuted, some of the stuff that was mentioned here with a certain group, apparently, that was clashing with Nightcrawler. That all was refuted in a Twitter X thread by Gideon Z. And it's a fairly long thread. I'll have it all linked down below. Time Extension did a very good job cataloging all the different responses back and forth for this. But the bottom line, it does appear that while it started out as a fun, small project of, hey, ROM hacking is fun, we have these different translation projects, we have these fixes, these for different bugs or maybe things that were wrong with the game because we didn't get updates back then through the internet for like a PS1 game. No, you just kind of lived with it. But ROM hacking and stuff did fix it. So when you have all that stuff sort of scattered, and then you come up with a website like this where you can just start storing them over time, yeah, you're going to build up a ton of files. And as they mentioned, sometimes you get copyright strikes and a lot of headaches that come with it, especially when it balloons to the size. and you started out originally as kind of a fun project, really for lack of a better term, out of someone's garage. But it is very unfortunate because, as I mentioned, this was a great source to sort of consolidate all the different ROM hacks and translations, which that's the big one for me. I used romhacking.net quite a bit for translations of games that were only released in Japan. So like on the Super Famicom, for example, there's so many interesting RPGs, like the Dragon Ball Z Legend of the Super Saiyan, that it took years to get that translation done for the community, and they would constantly update romhacking.net with the latest one until they eventually got to like 1.01 and it was fully playable in English, and that was an awesome thing to see. But we've had just translations across the board, some very, very interesting, almost complete change-ups for the game through different ROM hacks, and it was just easy to go to the site, you pick a system, and you can even change up and sort everything by the date, by name, by author. There were so many different ways to find these different files and find them quickly. But at this time, they're shifting over to a read-only mode, so fortunately the site will still be there, but they're not going to be accepting any more submissions going forward. In that case, they're going to leave it up to their forum, which people will just, I guess, post links to their latest translation or hack for a game, and I guess host it off of ROM hacking, like Mediafire or other links that can at least store these different hacks and allow you to download them, which means, yes, we're going to go back to kind of being scattershot a bit. But apparently part of this backup to Internet Archive is in case somebody wants to basically pick it up and keep running with it, you can do so and I guess create a whole new website. So we'll see if any other romhacking.net clones or lookalike sites pop up. Hopefully not with malicious intentions, because that was the other nice thing about romhacking.net. It was a pretty straightforward operation, at least from the user's end. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a delay that's hit Microsoft that was kind of expected because it was put out like not even 24 hours earlier in the press from Tom Warren, and this has to do with Avowed, as it has now been moved into next year. We can see this was posted up by Microsoft over on their Xbox account, where they say, so many games coming. As such, we're moving Avowed to February 18th, 2025 to give players' backlogs some breathing room. Stay tuned for more from our games across Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, Xbox Game Studios at Gamescom, including our August 23rd live stream for a look at Avowed. Okay, so February 18th, I was thinking maybe Avowed would have been in November, so that's what, like a 3-ish month delay. And they're saying that they just have too many games to release, so they don't have anywhere to put it for the rest of 2024. So I think what really happened here is we do have Stalker 2. That got delayed from September into November. And I will admit, looking at the schedule, for them trying to space some of these releases out, giving them some breathing room, some time to shine, if you will, on like Game Pass's service, yeah, it is getting harder to find a spot for it. However, I do think it's really funny that they're framing it as there's just too much to play. We have too much. I mean, they show their graphic here of all the different games, and sure, but still, it's just a funny way to try to sell that. It's like, you know, we could have put it out there, but nah, we're going to hold back on this. I do think Avowed needed a little more time, just based on some of the footage we've seen. It looks like there's a lot of potential there, but it also at times looked very rough around the edges, and they don't want to come out and say that completely, so yes, PR speak, it's easier just to go, you know what, we've already given you too much for the holiday, just hang out a bit, couple months, we'll get this one to you, start off 2025. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you played any of the Darksiders games? Okay, 56% have never played a Darksiders game, but look, I guess the other 44% here have. 36% played at least one of them, and then 8% says I've played all of them. And yeah, I've played all of them, even like kind of the spin-off that they did that was sort of that isometric top-down shooter style game. I played that too, but I think my favorite one still is I feel like it's still the first one. I don't know, that one just caught me off guard. I wasn't going into it expecting what ended up being sort of like a Zelda-style game. It was just a really nice surprise for that, because then it was technically a new IP, and I was like, oh wow, what is this Darksiders thing? And then yes, they did lean into some more of the RPG mechanics for the second one, and I know many people who like the second one the most. I don't really know anyone who likes the third one like the most, as like their favorite one, but certainly the first two. So hopefully they can maybe play around with the gameplay style a bit, come up with something new, or maybe even go back to what made the first one so fun. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Gaming Lakitu, says Nintendo would definitely want to save the mainline Pokemon titles for Direct to go into NSO, because just doing a Twitter mention would make it go under the radar more, while in a Direct probably boosts so many new subs. So, of course, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon gets announced randomly on Twitter. Everyone starts talking about the mainline games. Where are they? When are they going to NSO? And then some started to come up with things like alternative subscription services to go alongside of NSO, because the assumption now, and it's probably the correct one, is that the Pokemon company looks at this and says, no, if we made a subscription service for Pokemon games, it'd be way too valuable to just put in NSO. We would want our own subscription service. And it wouldn't shock me if that was the case. Like, if they start dropping all these Pokemon games into a service that you just pay over time, and maybe they add other things, other forms of media in there, and they have their mobile games that can go along with it. Just a lot of Pokemon stuff. There would be room to grow just outside of the Nintendo Switch or the next generation system. They could legitimately look to PC as well as cell phones, and that would be massive, I feel like, for all these different Pokemon games. So maybe that's the strategy, and that's one of the reasons we haven't seen mainline Pokemon games go in NSO. It's just they're too valuable for the $50 per year service that Nintendo currently offers. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was Nintendo's recent financial report for Q1 of this fiscal year, with some of the results now and a lot of negatives across the board there. Do you think it is time for them to start talking about their next generation device? Then also, what about Microsoft delaying Avowed because there's apparently too many games? And then Romhacking.net winding things down. Were you someone that maybe used that site over the years? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.